Ruby, Seed Anonymous. Grandma here again on a very, very nice sunny hot day in Bury. But I'm reading inside, not in the garden, because somebody's mowing their lawn and I don't think you'd hear me very well. So I've come back in the quiet dining room. Now in this chapter, Mandy was very excited because she got a letter in the post. It was from a lady called Mrs. Hooker. Now, I don't know whether you remember Mrs. Hooker, but she had been a friend of Mandy's mother ever since they were little girls together. And it said in the letter how sorry Mrs. Hooker had to say to Mandy last time she'd invited her that she couldn't go. You might remember that, you might not. That was when they had the sleepover with Susan and Mandy instead. But now Mrs. Hooker's son and his wife had gone abroad to live. Don't know where, don't think it was Sweden, but they'd gone somewhere abroad, and Mrs. Hooker said she'd be really pleased if Mother would let Mandy come and spend a weekend with her, as promised. Mandy was very pleased, and Father and Mother, Grandma and Grandad, Uncle and Auntie were very pleased for her as well. They talked of Mandy going away nearly all supper time, and Auntie promised to put a new ribbon around her best hat, and Mother said she must make her a very nice going away night dress in a special case, and Uncle said he would feel very honoured if she were to borrow his small leather bag to take it in, and Father gave her a sixpence to put in her purse, so she had some spending money. Mandy felt very excited. When the Saturday morning came, Grandad got the pony trap ready to go to market as usual, and Mandy came skipping down the path ready to go with him and meet Mrs. Hooker as arranged. Her hat looked just like new, and she had on a pair of nice warm woolly gloves that Grandma had knitted for her, and Auntie's best nice warm woolly scarf lent for the occasion, and Mother gave her a bunch of late chrysanthemums and a cream cheese for Mrs. Hooker from her with her love. And then Grandad got up in the trap and took the reins, and Mandy was lifted up beside him. Then off trotted Twinkle Toes the pony, and Father and Mother, Grandma and Uncle and Auntie called, "Goodbye, Mandy, have a nice time," and they waved. And Mandy waved back till she couldn't see them any longer. They didn't see Susan or Billy Blunt as they drove through the village, but Mandy waved at their houses anyway, just in case they were inside and might see her going past. And then they were out in the open country, away from the village, and Mandy was glad of Auntie's nice warm woolly scarf and her new nice warm woolly gloves to keep her nice and warm on the journey. They came to the bigger town and got down by the big clock in the marketplace, and Mrs. Hooker came hurrying up, looking quite different somehow. For Mandy had only seen her once before and had nearly forgotten what she looked like. And then Grandad kissed Mandy goodbye and went off to do his business in the market. And Mandy took Mrs. Hooker's hand in its grey kid glove and went off with her. Mandy had never been away from home to stay before without any other member of her family, and it felt so strange, but still a little bit exciting. "Well, Mandy," said Mrs. Hooker, "I just want to buy some crochet cotton and then we'll be getting home." So they went into the big draper's shop, heaps of times bigger than Miss Muggins's shop at home, and Mrs. Hooker asked for crochet cotton. Now, while she was buying it, Mandy looked about and felt the purse in her pocket. Presently she saw some pretty little guards that you put over the points of knitting needles, and she thought they might be useful for Grandma. And suddenly Mandy had an idea. She's good at that. What fun it would be to take presents home for everybody. She had 5 pennies of her own, and then the sixpence Father had given her, which was the same as 6 pennies. She wondered what everybody would like. I remembered Mother once saying handkerchiefs always make an acceptable present. So, when she had bought the cards for Grandma's knitting needles, she asked the lady behind the counter if she had some handkerchiefs. They weren't very expensive, and the lady behind the counter brought out a box full, each one marked with a letter in one corner. So Milly and Mandy looked at them all and chose one for Mother with an M, a M in the corner, and one for Auntie with an A or an A in the corner. And then she'd only got 2 pennies left. She wondered whatever she could get for Father and Granddad and Uncle with just 2 pence. Presently Mrs. Hooker finished her purchases and they went out into the street to go to Mrs. Hooker's house. There was such a lot of people all over the pavement because it was market day and there seemed so much to look at that Milly Molly Mandy wished she'd a dozen pairs of eyes, not just 1 pair. But still, she managed to keep one on the shop windows as they passed, hoping to see something which Grandad and Father and Uncle might like. And suddenly she saw a tray of pink sugar mice in a sweet shop, labelled 2 for a penny. "Oh, Mrs. Hooker," said Milly Molly Mandy, "would you mind waiting a moment while I get a sugar mouse to take home for Father and Grandad and Uncle?" So Mrs. Hooker held the leather bag and the chrysanthemums and the cream cheese until Milly Molly Mandy came out with a bag of sugar mice in her hand. She had bought 4, and 1 was to be a goodbye present for Mrs. Hooker when she returned home after the weekend. She wished she could get presents for Susan and Billy Blunt, but that didn't seem possible, for Milly Molly Mandy had used up all her money. When they got to Mrs. Hooker's house, they put the chrysanthemums in a vase on the table and the cream cheese in a dish on the sideboard. And then there was just time before dinner for Milly Molly Mandy to unpack her small leather bag in the little room she was to sleep in by herself. And she found Mother had popped in the little rabbit. Do you remember she won that rabbit at a party once? The one that had funny eyes and had to be stitched back on. She was so glad to see him because she slept with him in her bed every night. So she hid him in a nightdress case so that he shouldn't be seen because he hadn't been invited. He was a stowaway. But it was a good fun for him too. The plates at dinner were so pretty, quite different from what they had at home, and so were the wallpaper and the carpet. Altogether there seemed so much to think about that there wasn't time to say much more than yes please and no thank you. But she enjoyed her dinner very much. Then Mrs. Hooker said, "I've asked Milly next door to come and spend the afternoon with you and you can play with my old toys." It's a little bit like when you go to see Auntie Christina and she gets lots of toys out for you to play with. Milly Molly Mandy said, "Will Milly next door put a hat and coat on to come here?" Because that's what happened with their nearest neighbours, Susan and the Moggses. But they lived 5 minutes walk down the road. So Mrs. Hooker said she really couldn't say, but probably not, because it was just next door. And presently the next door gate squeaked, and then Mrs. Hooker's gate squeaked, and then the doorbell rang, ding-a-ling-a-ling, and Milly next door came in without a hat or a coat. Mrs. Hooker told Milly Molly Mandy to take Milly next door upstairs to her room. And so Milly Molly Mandy played hostess and asked Milly next door if she wanted to use her comb, and asked her also if her name was really Millicent, Margaret, Amanda, like Milly Molly Mandy's own name. And Milly next door said no, it was Mildred, because Milly's short for Mildred as well as Millicent. Then Milly next door admired the new nightdress case on the bed and the new nightdress inside, which was pink. And she didn't see Booby Rabbit, but she probably would have liked him if she'd met him. But when Milly Molly Mandy showed her the handkerchiefs marked for M for Mother and A for Auntie, Milly next door was quite surprised. "Oh," she said, "my mother never has her handkerchiefs marked M for Mother. She has them marked R. Oh yeah, because her other name is Rose. What's your mum's real name?" It's Polly, said Millie Molly Mandy in a sad little voice. Oh well, said Millie next door comfortingly. I expect they can still use them, even if they aren't quite proper. But Millie Molly Mandy didn't feel very comforted, because she had wanted to give Mother and Auntie proper presents. Then they went downstairs and played all afternoon with Mrs. Hooker's funny old-fashioned toys. And when the lamps were lit, she brought out a beautiful paint box and a fashion paper full of little girls. And the two Millies each painted a little girl very carefully and cut it out with Mrs. Hooker's scissors and gave it to each other for a keepsake. During tea, Millie Molly Mandy had another good idea. She would paint and cut out some paper dolls for Susan as a present as well. She didn't think Billy Blunt would want paper dolls, so she still didn't know what to give him. She wished she had another halfpenny so that she could buy a sugar mouse for him. But now it was time for Millie next door to put on her coat again and go home. They said goodbye to each other and promised to write and exchange paper dolls. Millie Molly Mandy had never slept all alone before, and when bedtime came, she was a little bit unsure whether she'd be able to sleep at all. But she'd had such a busy day that she soon nodded off to sleep. Sunday was another nice day. They went to church in the morning, and in the afternoon Millie Molly Mandy painted paper dolls for her friend Susan. And then came Monday, and Millie Molly Mandy's visit was over. It was in the afternoon that Grandad and Twinkletoes the pony came with the trap to fetch her home. She was all ready but for slipping the sugar mouse onto the mantelpiece with a note to Mrs. Hooker with love from Millie Molly Mandy. And then, just as they drove off, Mrs. Hooker put a little packet of chocolate in Millie Molly Mandy's lap to eat on the way home, and they all said goodbye to each other and waved. Presently, Millie Molly Mandy, sitting in the trap, had yet another good idea. She's full of them, isn't she? She could give the little packet of chocolate to Billy Blunt as a present. So she said, Grandad, would you be very disappointed if we didn't eat this chocolate? And then she added in a whisper, but I've got something in my bag for you. And Grandad said, Millie Molly Mandy, I'm just feeling too excited to eat any chocolate now because you're coming home again. Is there something? Oh yeah, it's a bee. Sorry. So when they got home to the nice white cottage with the thatched roof, and Millie Molly Mandy had hugged Father and Mother, Grandad and Grandma and Uncle and Auntie, she opened her leather bag and she gave Father a sugar mouse and Mother a handkerchief marked M for Mother. But when Mother saw it, she said, oh, how nice to have it already marked M for Mary. And Millie Molly Mandy suddenly remembered Mother's real name was Mary, and she was only called Polly as a nickname. Millie Molly Mandy was so relieved that she had to jump up and down several times. Then she gave Grandad a sugar mouse, and Grandad was pleased, and she gave Grandma the guards for her knitting needles, and Grandma was pleased, and Uncle had a sugar mouth, and he was pleased, and he was pleased, and Auntie was a handkerchief, you remember, marked A for Auntie. But when Auntie saw it, she said, how nice, mine is marked too, A for Alice. And Millie Molly Mandy suddenly remembered that Auntie and Alice both began with the same letter. And so she was really relieved again. Next morning she ran down to the road to little friend Susan's and gave her the painted paper dolls, and later in the day she saw Billy Blunt and gave him the little packet of chocolate. And he asked her to share them with him, so they both got some. And then Millie Molly Mandy wrote a little letter to say thank you to Mrs. Hooker and say just how much she'd enjoyed her visit over the weekend. And that's the end of that chapter. Millie Molly Mandy was a very generous girl, I think, because she could have just spent all that money on herself, couldn't she? But she was very kind and decided to get presents for her family and her friends. Right, next time, let me just see what the next... Oh yeah, it's the last story that we're going to be reading about Millie Molly Mandy. Then I'll introduce you to another little girl. But the next time, Millie Molly Mandy goes to a fete. Now, you may not know what that is, but you'll have to wait till I read it to you to find out. So Grandma will say, bye bye.